Yeah, all live.
Everyone hear me okay? Yeah?
Yes.
Excellent. Sorry, my screen is just frozen on me. Yeah, perfect. So hello everybody and welcome to today's Innovation Network November meeting. It's great to have you all with us today. So today we're going to have two presentations with the common theme of funding with them. So we're joined by Sinéad O'Reilly, who is Head of Local Place and Public Art with the Arts Council of Ireland. Sinead's going to present on the Creative Places programme, which is an Arts Council programme that invests in people and places which have not previously benefited from sustained investment in the arts. And we're also going to be joined by Cormac McDonnell, who is Innovation and European Funding Manager with Sport Ireland. Cormac's going to present on an initiative that he manages, which is the Innovation for Sport Inclusion Fund. And that's a programme that seeks innovative solutions to the development of sports participation in Ireland. So Sinead and Cormac are going to present in a couple of minutes. And then we're going to have a Q&A session afterwards. And then following the Q&A session, Chris Kieran, our Innovation Fund Manager, is going to join us and share a little bit more information about the 2022 Innovation Fund and the launch of that. So before we go into today's session, I just want to take this opportunity to remind everybody of Innovation Week 2021, which begins next Monday, November the 8th, and wraps up next Friday, November the 12th. So we are going to kick off our week with the Innovation Conference, which will be available to watch live on our website. The conference is available to view on ops.gov.ie. And I'd encourage you all to join on the day. And in the afternoon of Monday the 8th, we're going to launch the 2022 Innovation Fund. And the launch is going to include a panel discussion with past recipients of the fund who'll talk about their process applying for the fund and also completing their projects. So if you're interested in applying for the 2022 Innovation Fund, definitely join that session next Monday at 2 o'clock. So following on from the conference and the fund launch on the Monday, we then have a full programme of events and workshops for the rest of the week. So we've ideation workshops, we've strategic design workshops, Essentials of Innovation programme with the IPA, a Lego series play workshop, and then a Create in Our Future public service brainstorm in collaboration with Science Foundation Ireland. So there's a lot of events and workshops planned for the week. So if you are interested in joining, do get onto our website and register for a place on our events. And hope to see a lot of you there. So like I said, ops.gov.ie is where you'll find all the information. So without further ado, we're going to hand over to Sinead, and I hope that this is an opportunity for Sinead and the Arts Council to share more information on their programme with our network, and perhaps even make some connections and networking opportunities with some of our attendees. And if you do want to reach out to Sinead and Cormac as well about their projects, just get in touch with myself and we'll share that information. So before we kick off, if everyone could stay muted throughout, and if you have any questions, please use the chat function and we will ask Sinead and Cormac then during the Q&A session. So Sinead, just to let you know, we can see your full screen there, Sinead.
Great. Thanks so much. And thank you so much, Jade, for the invitation to come to the network meeting today and talk about our Creative Places programme in the Arts Council, which is still relatively new and still very much a learning curve for us, but an important step change in the way the Arts Council works. So just to maybe talk through what it is. So it is an ambition within our strategy, Making Great Art Work, and called out specifically. Thanks, Jade. Oh, you can see the notes as well. Okay, fair enough. How do I get rid of those notes? Let's carry on. It's an ambition within our strategy, Making Great Art Work, named specifically in our 3-year plan. And it's a commitment that is called out in strategy to ensure that more people in Ireland can enjoy, take part in and benefit from brilliant arts experiences, no matter where they live. It really is a response to the spatial and demographic distribution of Arts Council's own funding. So really where our funding is reaching and where is it not reaching and not benefiting. And it is there also in alignment with the objectives of the National Development Plan, particularly around social cohesion and vibrant communities. And it's a national programme that operates locally and designed, chosen and devised by local people who in the places where they live. So what is the aim? The aim really is about kind of a long-term investment in these places to ensure that the approach is inclusive, it's diverse, it's rooted in socially engaged arts practice and community development. And we're really interested in the kind of the demographic profile of these places which have these fewer sustained opportunities, while also recognizing that there are cultural strengths in these areas as well. And so it's really about building on those existing assets and creating new opportunities. It's also there to equip communities, local artists, businesses to keep going. So legacy is at the core of these programs as they develop in places. So how did we start? So in figuring out how we researched a model that we thought would work. We then took a kind of data-driven approach to identify a pilot place, because we really felt we had to start somewhere and demonstrate that how this project works and how it could work. So to identify a pilot place, we really kind of looked at a big piece of research. So we researched every town in Ireland between the population of 3,000 and 10,000, using RDF guidance there, and identifying through 9 different lenses: were they in receipt of Arts Council funding, sustained local authority funding, if they had an arts centre, an arts festival, and other kind of social status, such as population decline, whether they were part of a rapid tour or public status, and how many deaf schools in each town. So this was an extensive piece of research. There are 73 towns in Ireland between that population size. We then shortlisted 2 towns in each regional assembly area. We looked at the percentage of diverse population then in terms of further shortlisting down, percentage of young people, number of deaf schools. And from that, we found our pilot town, which was Tuam. And that then triggered a conversation with Galway County Council, and really to kind of open up that conversation, that collaboration, that partnership, that we were coming, I suppose, with an offer for the town of Tuam. We then, that was a positive conversation, of course, and then we had open meetings with the people of Tuam to talk about the opportunity as well. We then tendered for project management, and we launched the programme in January 2020. Now, timing-wise, that was about 8 weeks before the pandemic hit. So that gave us a whole new set of challenges about how do you work in a place when you cannot be in a place. But we did continue, and we did persevere with Tuam. So far, we managed to work with 60 different local artists. We've had 32 mentorship support sessions. We engaged about almost 40% of the town in different activities, mostly online activities. There's been 309 meetings, and these were individuals, with organisations, with agencies, and we've offered seed funding to different groups, individuals, to kickstart their creative ideas. And we've also been able to locally, really kind of talk about this project on a number of different international systems as well. So we've involved in a couple of different seed groups on the EU level, and the more recently, there actually last week, the European Network of Cities and Regions for Social Economy. So the project was represented there as well. In terms of expanding the programme, we have new creative places. So I suppose the pandemic did highlight the value of the work, the places where we live, how we engage with them, and the places where we live are more important than ever to us. So the increased funding the Arts Council got in 2021 also allowed us to expand this programme and to use the learning from the pilot in Tuam to do that. This time we didn't use our research to select, but we actually went out by application, and we did a call out for proposals. And the applicants for this one could be either a local authority, a community development organisation, or an arts organisation, but we were encouraging a partnership and collaborative approach between all 3 in each of those places. So following that application and assessment process and a peer panel look at all those applications, we now have 8 new places that we've added to the programme this year. So those are Bagnallstown in Carlow, Darndale in North Dublin, Athy in Kildare, West Cork Islands, the 7 inhabited islands in West Cork, Edenderry in Offaly, and then we've research awards as well. So places that would like to get involved, but need a little kind of do their own research as to what might happen first. So those are McGilliam Estate in Tala, Shannon in Clare, and the Ivory Peninsula in Kerry, which is a Gaeltacht region as well. So you can see we now have a range of places that are, from very urban spaces to very rural places, and to a number of small towns around the country. And as of last month, we've been able to, or in September, we started a new network program for all these places, so including Tuam. And so 9 places in total are all now part of Greater Places Network program that is supporting all these places through kind of mentorship and through training and through advice and support as they develop. So they're all very much still quite new, these ones, and so we're supporting that kind of development process they need to go through. And we will be opening up for more Greater Places. So in March 2022, we'll have an application for more Greater Places to come through. We probably won't expand it to such a level again. So while we added 8 in 2021, we're probably unlikely to keep adding 8 each year, because we have 4 commitments we're making to each of these places. So in order to kind of make that sustainable for us, we'll be adding maybe 2 to 3 places each year then from here on in, and expanding the program that way. So I might take down the slide, because often when we talk about this work is all very much about it's of, by, and for the people in these places, and I thought it would be really good and useful to show you and to share with you an audio of a member of the Tuam community who has shared reflections on the program. So Owen, I'm going to end the slideshow and you might hop up that.
So Sinead, Owen is just
audio.
Yeah, Owen's just getting the audio ready for us now. So I'm just going to ask you one question, because you mentioned something and I jotted it down because I think it's really interesting, and it's been everybody's life for the last 2 years. And what you said was, how do you work in a place when you can't be in a place? So obviously this program would have started just as COVID was hitting in and around that time, and obviously your plans for the program were probably a lot different to what you ended up doing. So how did you find working in a place when you couldn't actually be in a place? How did that go for the Creative Places program?
Yes, yeah. So there is a coordinator who is in Tuam, or based, who's there. So it's a person. The program comes with someone who is kind of attached and working in that place. So our coordinator is Caroline Courtney. She lives in Dublin. So even then she wasn't able to physically be in the place. But the first 6 weeks, or thereabout 6-8 weeks, that we were actually able to be in the place, that started off a whole load of conversations and cups of tea and the chats, and looking for each. Caroline really applied a snowballing effect. So each conversation led to another conversation, and she continued with that process over lockdown, over the phone, over Zoom, lots of phone calls, and reaching out by phone was really, really important, and became something that kept those connections being made. So she stuck with it, and just kept those conversations happening, and people really appreciated, that it wasn't being paused. It was continuing no matter what.
Yeah, in a different format. And we might actually come back to that in the Q&A session then, and talk about how the collaboration evolved over time during the project. But I think Owen has the audio clip ready now. Just want to play.
My Tuam is a hinterland, a home from home in the heart of my mother's homeland, Crumlin, Ballygoonin. My Tuam is a place of belonging, a feeling deeply evoked by the presence of generational footprints etched on the land. Its dry stone walls and hawthorns in bloom in May. It's over a railway, under a railway bridge, past the new school and the pumps at Ryan's. My Tuam is a collection of daily experiences. It's saying yes to a proposal on the top of Knockma. It's bon dia in the morning, bon noche at night. It's going into town on a Friday and catching the market down Brown's Lane. It's as much about the chat as it is the fresh, locally grown organic vegetables, home-baked breads, willow witch and free-range pasture-grazed pork. Going home with my wares, maybe into O'Toole's to pick up a few bits or little for the big shop. New harmony to fuel my latest health ad and parks when I'm looking for that something and I'm not sure what it is, but I know I'll find it in there when I see it. It's breakfast and leaf and bean, followed by a stroll to the library, maybe a book, or maybe catch an exhibition in the foyer. It's Viennese fingers from the cake box, if I'm lucky, shared over a cuppa with a friend or neighbour. It's orange, the handmade chocolate shop. It's the sound of kids playing in the park and families on bicycles. It's young people hanging in closed doorways, laughing, dreaming, all talk about their futures. COVID happened. The market ceased trading. The cake box closed down. The library doors shut to the public, and leaf and bean went click and collect. Young people still gathered in doorways, laughing, dreaming, all talk about their futures. COVID happened, but something else happened too. Since Creative Places came to town, my tomb is all this and more. My tomb is curious. It's reading the announcement of 20 seed funding recipients in the social media channels of a national resource organisation and realising this is happening in Tomb, my tomb. Delighting knowing that throughout the hinterland and studios and workshops, through communities and collaboration, there's a network of practitioners experimenting, making and producing. The announcement is followed by news feeds of new websites launched, podcasts released, musicians recording, craft fairs continuing, and suddenly the seeds are growing, the creative endeavours of a community supported, made visible, taking root. I am witnessing a place being held. That's the privilege Creative Places has honoured Tomb with, holding a space, deeply believing in a place and its people. In this sense, Creative Places is for me a presence, an enigma of sorts. Creative Places moves through you. It's in you, it's of you, it's of place. In many ways, it's hard to imagine without a physical space or building to identify with, which in itself challenges institutional norms about how creativity and the arts are supported. Yet somehow the fluidity of the framework and relational methods maintain this holding space, even in a pandemic.
Thanks, Owen, for sharing that. I thought it was really important that we hear the voice of the community and really understand the impact of what we do and hear that back in their words, so hope you enjoyed that. And there's a full version of it on the Creative Places Tomb.ie website.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sinead. That was really touching, that piece. And I liked when she said that you had honoured Tuam as part of the Creative Places programme. I thought that was quite touching for Tuam. And that's one of, I think, 68 local artists you mentioned had engaged in the programme. So it's brilliant. And we might ask a couple more questions about that then when we come to the Q&A session afterwards. So I'm going to hand over to Cormac now. Cormac, are you there? Yeah. Great. So Owen should be able to hand over to you.
Yeah, I'm just putting up his presentation now.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jade, can you hear me?
I sure can.
I hope there's not an echo from this room I'm in here in the National Sports Campus here in Dublin.
No, all good.
So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to Sinead for that lovely presentation and the excellent work. Some really touching piece there. And also thank you to everyone for joining the call today. My name is Cormac McDonnell and I'm the Innovation and EU Funding Manager in Sport Ireland. I'm delighted to just present just a quick overview on a program that we have launched last year, and it's an Innovation for Sport Inclusion program, which targets sports participation in disadvantaged communities throughout Ireland. Next slide there, Owen. Owen, thank you. Just to say that Sport Ireland, for those that may not be aware, we're the statutory body that's responsible for sport in Ireland, and that covers everything from participation in sport and grassroots sport throughout the country, right up to high performance sport, anti-doping, coaching, and indeed the development of the national campus where I'm speaking to you from today. Yeah, next slide, please. And the next slide just gives a quick overview to the Innovation for Sport Inclusion program, which was something that we launched last year. You want to play that video, Owen?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to get more people engaged in sport and physical activity? Do you have an innovative project that will create more social inclusion in sport? Maybe you have an idea for some new technology that will make it easier for people to connect and engage in physical activity. Sport Ireland is looking to support new thinking and new ideas in sport through its Innovation for Sport Inclusion programme. The aim is simple: to fund new and exciting ideas that will help solve the critical problems preventing. We're looking for projects that will identify participation.
Yeah, we'll just put your presentation back up now, Cormac. 1 second.
Yeah, thank you, Owen. I think we might have got that video in stereo sound there, but I think you get the basic idea. I think just to say that it's this particular program was funded through the Dormant Accounts program, which we've been lucky enough to be able to distribute some of those funds out to community groups and indeed sporting bodies throughout the country. Indeed, all of that funding is broadly targeted to new disadvantaged communities and I suppose that on programs that were encouraging people to get involved in participation in sport. So the Innovation for Sport Inclusion program is a program that we distribute our funding through the sporting bodies that we work with. And so we have a local sports partnership network in every county in Ireland. And we've also got a network of about 68 national governing bodies of sport and indeed other sporting organisations and entities that we're able to fund, if you like, under multiple different funding programs that we run. And so this particular initiative, we were able to secure about €900,000 worth of funding, and we opened this in an open and competitive application process where, I guess as part of any program, we would develop guidelines, criteria, and application forms, and a process of identifying, if you like, the best projects that are available. And again, like most of the programs that we run, there is an element of co-funding or part funding required. In this case, it was 25% BIK or indeed partner funding that could come in to support projects. Next slide, please. Just to say that I suppose under the initial, the first year of this program, we were able to fund 13 innovation projects. 6 of those delivered are being delivered through our local sports partnership network, and 7 of them being delivered by our by selected national governing bodies of sport. Again, all focused on really targeting a problem or an area that they've identified as being a real problem area or a challenge or a new audience or something new that they're trying to do. And we also found that a lot of projects that came through here had a technology focus, and so really we're embracing and using technology in new ways to target and reach new audiences and new communities. All the projects here are operating on a 12 or at this stage an extended timeline of 18 months due to COVID delays and such like. So yeah, projects generally are delivered within a 12-month period, but just due to COVID, we've had to extend some of those timelines. And also, just as part of this new initiative, and it's something I'll speak about in a few minutes, we've had to put a support program in place to really support our projects and the teams working on projects in how they go about delivering new and innovation projects. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview on hopefully one or two projects. Hopefully we'll be able to hear a video. The first project is a project that is being delivered by one of our governing bodies called Swim Ireland, and they're involved with developing a piece of technology to engage more people in the sport of recreational swimming. Owen, could you play that next slide?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just get your presentation back up, Cormac. Yeah. Can you just unmute there, Cormac?
They're identifying, they've been able to identify a challenge, an area, and they've been able to actually, for the first time, work on a new solution and try something new ordinarily that they may not have funding for. So I think this new program has allowed for our bodies to actually start exploring new ideas in some cases for the first time. And I guess in support of that, we felt that there was also a need for us to put a support structure around the projects, because they were, in some cases, a lot of these projects and partners are trying something for the first time. They're learning new skills. And so we have established an innovation support program that involves things like mentoring, one-on-one mentoring sessions with innovation advisors, workshops in areas like customer discovery, prototyping, design thinking, and even project management around these projects. And again, establishing probably a community of support between the projects, so that there's a bit of collaboration between projects, and that they're able to help each other and support each other. So yeah, next slide, please, Owen. So just another aspect to this particular program is really we felt that the importance of just measuring impact and success. And I think in all innovation projects, it's really important to understand what works for whom and under what conditions. Those three particular questions really underpin pretty much all of our work. And so it was important for us to put an evaluation system in place for the program at a program level, but also at a project level. Next slide, please. So at the moment, for this particular program, we have an evaluation system in place which starts with such things like using logic models to define the project and really try to become very clear as to what are the outcomes we're looking for on these projects and how we can actually kind of track those. And then it runs through that typical stuff of doing some baseline surveys, doing some interviews, one-on-one interviews, and indeed gathering information at different stages in a project cycle. And so for most of this innovation program, these projects were coming towards the back end of the first, if you want to call it, the implementation of these projects. So we'll be beginning to see what type of impact these projects are having. Next slide, please. So you might ask, where are we going with this? Where does it go next? We have our first, I suppose, batch of projects are coming through the funnel, the innovation funnel. They're nearing completion now. It's likely that we will pick up. There will be, and we're hoping that there would be a number of those projects that will continue, that we will hopefully scale. And we also have 11 new innovation for sport inclusion projects coming through, I suppose as part of the 2021-2022 program. And so again, more of the same, more new organizations coming, being inspired and trying some new things. And again, the process continuing, whereby we will try and encourage as many of our sporting bodies to engage with innovation projects. Ultimately, our hope, of course, is that we will find some real gems, some really excellent projects here that can really draw the attention of some younger people, maybe older adults, maybe really capture the imagination of some of our communities, like people with disability, or indeed some of our hard to reach communities in sport and physical activity. And at a broader level, we hope that the culture, innovation culture, and design thinking is at the heart of that will develop across all sporting bodies in Ireland. So just next slide, please, just to maybe summarize quickly one or two of the other things that are happening in Sport Ireland in the innovation space. We are doing work where we're trying to upskill and build capacity across our sporting bodies in the area of innovation. So that involves kind of, I suppose, training programs and such like. One of the first things I did is, when I started my role, was started an innovation register within Sport Ireland itself to really capture what was happening in our own organisation across the different units. And so, also training and development for staff, if you like, in the area of innovation. And then just this year as well, we are exploring the idea of developing an innovation hub on the National Sports Campus here. So we've completed a feasibility study on that this year. And also looking to establish, and it's something we've been working on, this idea of innovation clusters and an innovation cluster for Irish sport, which we're hoping to establish in 2022. And that's really about collaborations between sporting bodies, the private sector, and indeed the third level sector and public bodies. So looking to create that cluster to drive new ideas and innovation in sport. We also connect quite a bit with a number of European entities around the area of innovation in sport and indeed European funding opportunities as well. So that gives a quick overview as to some of the things that keep me busy. Thanks, thank you, Owen, for guiding us through that, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, Cormac. Really interesting. Love to see those projects as well. I was aware of the sea swimming app from the last 2 years. I had seen a lot of people talk about it online and use it. So great to see that came through the funding model that you put into place. So I have a couple of questions to ask. You said a couple of things, both yourself and Sinead, that I want to find out more about. But first of all, I just want to thank you for presenting today. I think they're two really interesting programs that you shared with us. With regards to the Creative Places program, I think we can hear how important it is through the audio clip that we played, and how important the program is and the impact it has had on Tuam and the other areas that Creative Places has extended out to. And I think it's an innovative funding model for the Arts Council to use as well, to make sure that these places are funded in terms of arts and creativity going forward. I think as well, you did pivot very rapidly, as we talked about there, Sinead, by moving to phone calls and probably other online engagement and collaboration tools. And I think, I'll come back to that question on collaboration, because it is so important to innovation. So I'd love to know more about how you collaborated with other bodies. And then Cormac, in relation to the Sports Ireland Innovation for Sport Inclusion Fund, again, I think that's an excellent initiative from yourselves in Sport Ireland. And I think the two examples that you shared, the Sea Swimming app and then the Canoe VR project was from Tipperary, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Down
Yeah.
Tipperary, yeah. I think they're both brilliant, and I think they really emphasize kind of design thinking approaches as well. I know with the Sea Swimming app, they mentioned that the users would drive kind of future and further development of the app, which is obviously a key part of design thinking and user-centered design. So it's really interesting to see those innovative kind of methodologies and tools coming into the projects as well. So I think, Cormac, I will start off and ask you a quick question. And it's in relation to the last slide you actually shared with us, and it's in relation to the cluster and the innovation hub. Can you share a little bit more information about those and what that will mean for Sport Ireland and what you're doing?
Sure. Well, I guess ultimately, what we're trying to do is, our big goal is to deliver, if you like, the national sports policy and the goals and objectives of a physically active and a healthy Ireland, more people engaged and active in sport, and indeed obviously performance in sport as well. But so we believe innovation is at the heart of that, and we believe that what we have to do is create more opportunities and new channels to actually to reach some of those targets. And so we certainly believe that collaboration between the private sector and, if you want to call it, sporting bodies and indeed research entities are would be critical in achieving that. And so creating a system whereby we can engage, where research bodies can engage and connect with research and can undertake research to inform development work is very important. And also, of course, the private sector in the innovation cycle of coming up with new technologies, new apps, new ways of actually connecting with people, and indeed bringing that and connecting that to sporting bodies. So these connections are really, really important. And of course, they're very, very important within Ireland, but also across Europe and indeed worldwide. So indeed being able to see and pick up great ideas that have worked well in New Zealand or Australia or in other countries, and being able to actually graft those back to Ireland. That can happen through various cluster networks that are operating at an international level. So that's how clusters are definitely working. Ireland is probably a bit behind the curve on, in this area, and it's something that is certainly a big, if you want to call it I suppose a priority area for Europe in general, if you like, at the moment. And the hub, well, ultimately a hub is a space. It's a space that inspires and supports creativity and innovation, and it's a space where people can actually come to train, but also it can support enterprise, and so it can support research, enterprise, and some of those areas that we've been talking about. So we hope it'll be a catalyst for adding to the culture of innovation in the sports sector.
Brilliant. I look forward to hearing more information about that as it develops. And you mentioned research and data there, and kind of the importance of research and data to inform future work and future development of projects and activities. And I might come back to that in a second in relation to, I suppose, measuring the outcomes and the impact. And you touched off it briefly with your evaluation model. But on the question of research and data, Sinead, what data did you use to identify, I guess, Tuam as a pilot town, and did data, I guess, inform your decision for that?
Yeah, it was very important to us that we did take an evidence-based approach to decision making. So data-wise, that piece of research I mentioned over the 73 towns, I didn't even know myself before we entered that research that there were 73 towns between that population size in Ireland. And the vast majority of them actually in the Eastern Regional Assembly area, and less so maybe in the West and South. But it was that itself was a really fascinating exercise. So we took 9 different lenses. We looked at population, I don't know off the top of my head, population decline, rapid status, chlor, Hubble, number of deaf schools, whether they were in seat in the Arts Council funding already. So that would mean they were likely to have an arts centre or an arts festival, and whether they were in seat of kind of local authority funding. And we would have that data ourselves through our working relationship with local authorities. So most of my role is really about our kind of public sector relationship with local government. So we would have that information ourselves. So a lot of it we had, and a lot of it we went looking for. And it was extensive enough now to kind of create a matrix of the 73 towns in terms of being able to apply a measurement value to it. Really interesting to see what emerged from it. Anecdotally, I suppose people would know too, in terms of it popping up on regeneration. I suppose radar over time, and that now we could see that the evidence was there to identify that. But Tuam was such a vibrant place, and so that this is about bringing that bit to the fore, and uncovering all that is there, and giving it opportunity. So yeah, and just back data and research were a huge part of it. And even before we researched a model that we would use, and that was extensive too. We looked at international models as well of kind of place-based investment. So it took a long time to get to the pilot project, but we were I suppose confident that we had the right evidence to back up those decisions.
Brilliant. And you kind of answered my next question there, which was in relation to collaboration. So I suppose collaboration is is really important for successful innovation. And you mentioned there your relationships with local authorities, with Pubble. I guess yeah, collaboration was key to the success of this pilot project and its eventual rollout then around Ireland.
Yeah, and in relation to the pilot in Tuam, you know, obviously it was with Galway County Council, and that, you know, those exploratory conversations about what this could mean for Tuam, and even for, you know, even to talk through, you know, the local authority's own ambition for Tuam as well, and how we could kind of work together on that. So that collaboration was hugely important, and then, you know, and continues. You know, it wasn't just at the beginning; it is an ongoing conversation and dialogue that we have. And then with the new places that have come on board this year, collaboration is part of the applications approach. So we are looking for, you know, community development, local authorities, arts organisations to come together collaboratively to make that application. Because it's all about, for us, it's all about, you know, we're offering 3-year funding to these towns and places, but legacy is hugely important. You know, that legacy is built in, and that, you know, Cormac talked a lot about evaluation there. So we look for these applicants to tell us what their evaluation models will be and to implement them from the outset. Because, you know, I'm becoming more aware that these places, different, they have different measures of successes. They want different things out of it. So we're not going to impose a measure of success on them. They have to come up with their own, you know, measure of success. But we'll support that evaluation process through our own outcomes measurement framework that we're about to publish shortly. But we have been developing it in a pilot basis through some models like this, in terms of being able to measure the social impact of this type of investment.
Brilliant. We might actually get you back on to talk to us about that, because I'd be really interested to hear about, I suppose, the outcomes and the impact. And I know, Cormac, with your own programme, you are currently evaluating that at the moment. So perhaps we'll revisit this session in a couple of months to see what the outcomes of those evaluations were. But I guess, Cormac, in relation to what I suppose Sinead just spoke about there, we started off by talking about collaboration being extremely important to successful innovation and, you know, participation as well. What do you see as, you know, being the main drivers for innovation in sport?
Well, I think undoubtedly, you know, there are two main areas that, you know, I think the public and people in general are very health aware, and pretty much, you know, health, there is an element of consciousness around health, physical activity and well-being, wellness. And I think the consciousness around active lifestyles has increased, if you like, and has, you know, even through the whole pandemic period, the benefits of people just being out and active from a mental health point of view has been really striking. Like, you know, it's been really come to the fore, and that's not just in Ireland. That's a worldwide phenomenon. That's certainly picked up, you know, throughout the world. Like, you know, that the position that sport, physical activity, you know, is, you know, has increased. I think the other main driver worldwide is technology, and you know, it's the opportunities that are presented through technology to actually kind of you know, engage people, to connect with people, and to encourage people to be physically active. Of course, it's a tool. It's a mechanism for connecting. You still have to actually, you know, deliver an experience or be able to actually do something, and so but I think technology is certainly an opportunity that we're seeing, and, you know, most sport bodies really do need to be thinking how they're using technology to connect with their communities, how they're getting, you know, how they're using technology, I suppose, grow their audiences and get more people engaged with sport, you know. So they're definitely two of the main drivers. And just to pick up on the other point, of course, collaboration is at the heart of innovation. The idea that sport bodies, and what we're trying to encourage, is that sporting organizations look outside themselves, that they have conversations with other partners, with other entities, that they have an open-minded approach, and they begin to get ideas from anywhere. And so we're beginning to introduce the idea of open sourcing of ideas, where you you can go out to the public and ask them what they want, what they think. We for the first time just there a couple of months ago, we ran a national hackathon on the topic of teenage girls getting active. And it was a call to all schools and teenage girls around the country and community groups and parents to just say, well, look at here's what the research tells us. Here's what the what are your ideas for the type of programs that you want to see happening and available countrywide. And so that's an open source way of going outside and getting ideas. And then on the back of that, we were able to select 4 projects, and they're now being piloted in 4 different areas. And hopefully we will get 1 maybe of those or 2 that we can scale, countrywide.
Brilliant. Excellent. So there's a lot going on in Sport Ireland across all the number of programmes and projects that you've run. I guess to wrap it up before we hand over to Chris, who's going to talk about our own innovation fund, Sinead and Cormac, I'm going to give you 20 seconds to tell me what the future is for Creative Places and then also the Sport Inclusion Fund. So Sinead, in 20 seconds, what's next for Creative Places?
Oh, well, next is we were looking to expand the program, so invite new places onto the program in 2022 and into the network. So really creating a family, so it's a national program operated at a local level, but very much a kind of family of places that would not have been connected to each other anyway in the first instance. So are very unlikely to have. So that is our intention. More creative places is my mantra in the Arts Council.
Excellent. And Cormac, what's next for Sport Ireland?
I suppose there's no better way of introducing innovation and learning about innovation rather than doing it in a project, and by basically having a project that you're learning the skills of customer discovery, design thinking, prototyping, all of those skill sets, if you like, that are sometimes new to organizations. So on the back of that, the more organizations we can get engaged in projects, that means that we're developing the culture of innovation across the sports sector. So that's our goal, is to engage with as many sport bodies as possible, and those sport bodies to connect with new partners so that we will basically continue to grow. And as I said, hopefully we will find a number of really, really, excellent, successful initiatives, and then hopefully be able to actually expand and scale those.
Brilliant. And you've set the stage nicely now for Chris to come in. You talked about the only way you learn sometimes is by doing. And I think the innovation fund that we have in Deeper is a perfect example of that. So I'm going to bring in Chris now. I think he can unmute himself. So Chris is our Public Service Innovation Fund Manager, and Chris is quickly just going to talk about the 2022 fund and provide some more information on that, and then we'll wrap up the session. So Chris, if you want to take a couple of minutes.
Thanks very much, Jade. I'm just going to insert a poster for the upcoming event if I can. Sorry. So just to let people aware, the launch of the Public Service Innovation Fund has been brought forward into 2021 with the goal of extending the actual fund that we allocate annually to provide potential applicants more time to complete their projects. And again, from the lessons learned that we've done from the 3 other iterations of the fund, we've picked up some of the points that both presenters have talked about in terms of listening to our fundees and looking at the embracement of collaboration between projects. So since we've joined as the new team from the previous team, we've actually been able to successfully collaborate with a number of different projects in different areas and share ideas and help project leads successfully complete their projects. Again, as part of this year's iteration of the fund, we're also looking to focus our projects into 4 key areas, and it was great to see in the Sports Ireland video the application of VR technology for kayaking, and that's something one of the digital platforms has been very, very much embraced by a lot of our applicants over the last 3 years, especially in the area of occupational therapy and as a metric for social inclusion and stuff like that. So it's great to see that being kind of captured in other areas as well. The fund as well, it's reimbursed. So again, we're looking for projects valued between 25,000 and 60,000, and again, we're looking for projects that are impactful, you know, having an immediate impact, whether it be on our own organisation or on the citizen, etc. And we're looking for scalability. So as again, it was great to hear from both projects where you're looking at that idea, having that scalability across not just the public organisation looking for funding, but into other public organisations. So again, I go back to where they're utilising VR technology for occupational therapy. That is now being looked to embraced in the area of art and into other areas such as defence programmes, etc., to reduce operational costs associated with training, etc. And again, we have another presentation during the week where Dublin Bus have also been utilising the VR technology to develop empathy within drivers as part of their ongoing training. So the fund is set to be launched live from the Mansion House on Monday at 2 o'clock. We'll have, hopefully you'll be able to attend, because we'll have panelists from previous iterations of the fund, both this year and last year, and they'll talk about their experiences as well. And then once the panel event is over, the fund will be available live from our website as per the information there. And again, we'll have a deadline to the 7th of December at 12 noon for all applications. An interesting other point is we've reshaped our evaluation process as well, where projects will be we'll have a new evaluation model that's going to look at that to ensure that that all projects are focused in terms of what their end goals are and what's their achievement. And again, going back to the area of impact, scalability, and we're also focusing on areas such as green initiatives, on sustainability, digital transformation, and then again, citizen support innovation. So again, if anyone's interested in the audience, there's going to be a live launch on Monday at 2 o'clock. It'll be a great panel event. And again, if anyone has any questions, they'll get me at innovation@pair.gov.ie regarding the fund. And again, I'll talk about any aspects in terms of the innovation fund itself directly. So I'm going to stop there, Jade, because I'll keep talking.
Save it for Monday.
I'm just going to stop sharing, sorry.
Yeah, you're grand. Thanks a lot for that, Chris. So, like Chris said, the fund will be launched at 2 o'clock on Monday. It's an online event, and you can find more information on how to register for that at ops.gov.ie, as well as all of the other information that we have up about Innovation Week starting next Monday, the 8th of November. So I'll wrap up there. I'd like to thank Sinead, Cormac, and Chris for coming on to present to us today, and to Owen for helping out in the background. Really interested in presentations and initiatives that are going on in the Arts Council and Sport Ireland, and I hope you will come back next year and talk about the evaluation of those and some of the outcomes and the impact that the programmes have had. So thank you, Sinead and Cormac, and we'll leave it there for this month's meeting. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sinead.